Here I am up in the high country because I wanted to lay eyes on what's really going up here, up above 11, 12,000 feet. Can I start hiking the trail or can I not? Well, I tell you what, when I look at areas like this, I think, what the heck? I should get out here and start hiking. But I look at areas like this. I mean, if the trail went up there and there's great big melted off cornices up on this ridgeline, that would be some really tough going. But despite the lingering snow, in this drought year where the ski resorts all closed early, spring is starting to take hold in the high country. Look here, these teeny itsy bitsy blue flowers. How teeny? Here's a finger for scale. Miniature teeny flowers. So I've come up into the high country to crash out where I usually stay when I'm skiing in the winter, to find something to do. And one of my thoughts was, hey, there's this high alpine lake. Maybe I can go kayaking on it. But, yeah, it's frozen. So let's get back in the car because, you know what? I know there's a place that I can go boating. That is a sky full of virga, or rain that evaporates before it hits the ground. And although the rain itself doesn't make it, as raindrops, the air and the moisture with it still hits the ground, causing gust fronts. Should I go out in the lake? I'm out on the lake, and it looks like a lot of that virga is already dropped out. So I think boating is a fairly reasonable thing to do. Let's look at this first island, which actually isn't an island because it's not disconnected from the shore. You can see all this sand going up here. I've paddled my boat all the way to the edge there where you can see the trees and bushes start up. We're probably 15 feet lower than that. As a matter of fact, this really doesn't look any different than winter. And consider this is June 1st. This should be times of big runoff from the snows of the mountains. We should be worried about flooding. They should be releasing water from the dam of this reservoir to keep it from overfilling. None of those things are happening. I've made it out to one of the very few islands that have actually formed this year. For the most part, the water isn't deep enough to separate these other islands from the shore itself. All right, it's really gusting up now. So I went back to the island. I'm gonna wait this one out. You can see. Well, one of the good things about being a paraglider instructor is things like dust devils and flying dust is something that you've trained yourself over the years to notice in an instant, because it'd be critical to the safety of flying. Now, was there any real danger here? Maybe not, but it did get very strong, too strong for me to film. So, time to pack up, head on back. But tomorrow, we're gonna try another lake. This is lake number 2 of the trip, or because I'm actually from Wisconsin and a little bit snippy about the idea of lakes. This is actually a reservoir. Maybe you can see behind me the dam. Did I start early enough to escape the gust fronts and the virga? Well, once again, if you look behind me, the answer is definitively no. Usually when I head out boating, the first thing I do is head upwind. That means when I'm tired, I can head downwind and everything's easy. That simply isn't a possibility at this particular reservoir because, I don't know, can you see behind me? There's the dam and the highway. That's where you got to park. There is no access on the upwind side. So maybe I'm going to be really tired paddling on the way back, but that's all part of the game. So see there, I stored the boat over there, and let's go for a little hike. Now that is really and truly a lake. That's not a reservoir. There's no dam. I don't think I could even fit my boat on there though, so off we go. Here's a good example of what's happening in the high country as far as snow goes. See, if you look at south-facing slopes like this, they're pretty clear. But as this ridge bends around into the west, we pick up more snow. And then as it curves around finally to get a more northerly component to it, we start seeing a bunch of snow. The next bit of trail I'm going to do is going to be west-facing. Very high, 12,000 feet, 11,000 feet up there. So for the most part, maybe I'll have these west-facing conditions. But keep in mind, a mountain range is never straight like a ruler. So as it undulates back and forth, some of that will be south-facing, which should be easy. Some of that might also be north-facing, which could be problematic. Okay, after a bit of a snooze by the boat over there, it's time to start paddling back to the far side of the reservoir. And that skyline, that's part of the trail that I hiked last summer. All right, there we are. We made it back across the lake. And once again, the exciting part didn't get filmed because there were some gust fronts where it blew so hard I was going backwards when I was paddling. But it didn't hit the camera out, so you don't get to see that part. So just pretend that everything was mellow today, like right now. And here we are, day 3, body of water, number 3. Let's go for a float. Well, this is a different kind of lake. Unlike the other reservoirs where the banks are showing the water level really low, the edge of this lake, which I think might actually be a lake, look flooded. The water is so clear. You can see way down to the bottom, even though it's many feet below. And the scenery is just outstanding. The only thing that's disrupting this serenity is, of course, I-70 is just right over there, and we can hear all the cars and the trucks going by. I'm coming to the north end of the lake a little quicker than I thought. There's the inlet where the stream runs into the lake. It's an actual island up ahead. This is the only body of water I've been on so far that has been showing any sort of spring runoff. It's high, we see grass in the water, tree trunks in the water, but that also means that this island is still an island. Let's go investigate. All right, call me silly, but I think there's something amazing about paddling your boat to a teeny little island. And teeny is the word. There's one side. No, there's the other side over there. All right, what the heck is this? Looks like an old beaver mound. Could it be a current beaver mound? I mean, that tree at one point was growing out of it. This tree is still growing out of it. Are there beavers living down in here? I don't know. While I'm waiting to get back on the trail, we can spend a moment to revel in past glories. On my first season, I hiked over this mountain range, 10 mile, all the way to the far side, to Copper Mountain. And right now, standing here, that seems absolutely absurd. But I did pull it off. Paddled around this lake, I kept on thinking, is it really and truly a lake or is it a reservoir? And I was also, after I saw these supposed beaver mounds, although it doesn't look like there's a lot of beaver activity in this area, that if the beavers dam this up, does a beaver dam make it a reservoir? Or do we still call it a lake? But now that I've landed on this side, I think I'm not sure. If this mound of rock and dirt had been piled up here by human beings, then this is a reservoir because this would be a dam. Over there is the bridge where the outlet goes out. So is this a man-made lake? Looking at the outlet, what do we find? Well, we find that the creek here disappears into that grate. But hey, I just saw that mountain goat in the parking lot. Here's its footprints going up through here. So at some point, it must have come this way because I keep on seeing its footprints. What am I doing over here? Well, I'm still wondering if that lake I was on was a lake or a reservoir. I'm trying to figure out if I can see where that creek rejoins Clear Creek, right here. So I'm gonna go on a hike and look for it. You know, when I said I didn't think those beaver mounds back there were being used, is because I didn't see any signs like this in the woods of beaver activity. And if you look around here, that one's been gnawed off. Check out over here. Here's another one. And there's another one. There's another one. Well, that's the exit to the lake I just paddled on. And over here is the exit of the water from the river. Was that a natural lake? Maybe, maybe not. Was the creek leaving that lake following any sort of a natural course? Absolutely not, because it had to get across what? Interstate 70. But you'll be relieved to know that this does go off to Clear Creek, which will take it all the way down to the Platte River, which will eventually make it to the Mississippi and down to the Gulf of Mexico. Good luck, water. Okay, that was not Clear Creek. That was 10 Mile Creek. 10 Mile Creek flows into Dillon Reservoir. Dillon Reservoir feeds the Blue River, which in turn feeds the Colorado River. That water then goes down to Southern California and evaporates into nowhere because it never reaches the ocean anymore. So does that mean what I just said was incorrect? Actually, no, because there's the Roberts Tunnel, which diverts water from Dillon Reservoir down to Denver via the South Platte. So at least some of that water still goes to the Mississippi and therefore off to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the end of this little mini adventure. 3 lakes in 3 days. Gave me something to do while I'm waiting for the snow to melt off the trail, which is probably at least 2 weeks off still. But maybe I can do more of this in the meantime. Go search out reservoirs, lakes, different bodies of water, go for a little paddle, and a little bit of exploring. So stay tuned, see what I come up with next.